They're trying to keep the storm sewer separate from the sanitary.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hello, Scott.
Hey, guys.
neighbor called me about his.
How are you?
All right, very good. Nice to see you.
Going afternoon over there. There's complaining about the water. And, okay, I knew who he was, but what does it do? Your house is at a foot of a hill. I mean, you're gonna catch everything.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
It's just.
I could probably zip down there fast. So
Oh, we didn't hear you, Scott. What'd you say?
What'd you say?
I said I could probably zip there real fast.
You got a bad connection or
I'm
we
just
do.
down the street. What?
You either have a bad connection or we do.
Oh,
You're breaking up.
We must be breaking.
oh boy. Maybe I'll just drive on down.
I think you should.
Yeah, I'll be right there. I'll be there in like 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
All right. All right. All right.
That's really going to. That's good.
Yeah.
Which you should have in the first.
He literally lives like 5 minutes from here. I'm 7, so.
Great, so Lexi is coming.
Lexi, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Lexi.
Hi. I had to be traveling between the 2 locations, and so rather than be late, I'm taking the meeting in my car.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try one more time to sign into my account, to see if I can pull up my stuff. If not, just have to. What about it?
So we have lots of new board members. Were you at the last meeting?
I dialed in.
You did.
It's like Mike wrote me, I should do it.
There he is. I was just ready to roll your name off my tongue. You make it. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Katie.
I'm Paul.
Nice to meet you, Paul.
Paul,
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good.
Sorry, see if we'll let me get to my account. Well, I'm in good shape, if not.
I haven't heard from Centron. Have you, haven't heard from Centron about this meeting?
nope. But as soon as Scott gets here, we have a quorum. Well, actually, we have a quorum with Lexi.
Who's Lexi's here?
Yep.
I'm really here. I don't think I can't seem to find my camera setting.
Oh, you're fine. You're
And
in the car. Don't worry about your camera.
Are you-
Okay.
You're not driving,
Well,
are you?
just in case you question the identity.
You're not driving, are you, Lexi?
Heavens,
Are you
no,
parked?
I'm
So-
parked. I'm parked
Okay.
in
That's
a
Aaron.
park.
Aaron's,
She's on.
She's on.
Okay. Hi, Aaron.
That might be Aaron.
That's the same thing when you had sent out by email.
I added a couple things
Okay.
to it, so I will.
Paul, were you at the meeting last night? I know. we're on
No,
meeting.
I was
Okay.
on vacation.
Okay. I wasn't hearing.
Okay,
Should we go ahead and call the meeting to order since we have Lexi here and I know we're waiting for Scott, but we have a quorum.
Sure, if we had a quorum, we'd probably go ahead and start.
Okay. All right, well, let's call the July 26th meeting of the PCEB to order. And we can go ahead and do a roll call quickly. Kevin, you want to start?
Kevin Sombart present.
Katie Miller, present.
John Buck, present.
Emerson Smith present.
Paul Dietrich present.
Lexi O'Brien, present.
All right, thanks. And I sent out the minutes from the May meeting because the June meeting was not really a meeting. It was, what do we call that when it's?
Just a discussion.
A discussion. So we're gonna approve hopefully the May minutes, and often Kevin is somebody who has changes.
I
or-
do have one correction.
Okay. What's our correction?
Agenda item 3, Aaron, on the approved, the 424 minutes, should be Centron Felder, so add an N after Centro.
And Dietrich has
That's pretty good.
Oh,
quick, Scott.
and Dietrich has a K,
I did not speak.
not an A. Under roll call speakers in attendance.
So Paul Dietrich, Detrick.
All right. So, thanks, Aaron. So given those changes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from May? All right, do
Paul Dietrich moved to approve.
I have a second? All right, John, second, thank you. With the minutes are approved from the May meeting. So we have some new board members, so we're probably gonna be doing this over the next few meetings, because we're gonna have a couple other new people. Sloan Carfield, who's our student representative, will hopefully be here in August, she said, so we'll just do this a couple of times and it'll be a way to get to know each other. So I guess maybe start with our new members and then we'll do the old members. How about that? Okay. And
Well,
I'd love to know what drew you to this board.
drew me in.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a police psychologist by training and experience. And so I thought, I've lived here in Webster Groves for about 40 years. And our sons grew up here at the Webster. I'm semi-retired now and I have time, and I thought, well, it seemingly would be a good fit for me. This is one of the few things that I actually have experience and might be able to contribute to. So that's what brought me here.
Thanks, Paul.
Mhm.
Emerson. Oh, are you an official? You're not really an
No,
official
I'm
member.
just
like
the
that.
liaison to
Okay,
the, I think I made the statement last time, I'm your liaison. Use me as you will as far as getting information back to the council, providing out information. I did submit, we talked about like email count for the commission.
oh, yeah,
And so I put that in the hands of the public relations, Jenny, so she's working on that. City is transferring over to Microsoft Office, so she believes that something can be done.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so she heard Eric, in fact, was working on that, so.
Oh, good.
thank you. All right, John.
I'm John Buck. I'm the Dean of Students at Webster University, and our chancellor asked me to serve on the commission because there's a spot for this person. I've worked with any number of officers and EMS and responders for this situation on campus. So I thought, well, it kind of falls inside my professional responsibility at 2 a.m. And that's exactly so I'm having to be.
Are you on call 24/7?
I'm the person that gets the call if there's lights on campus, I get a call.
Oh, boy.
So that's sort of the work.
All right. Great, we'll work on. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, Scott Gresh, one of the original members of the PCEB, or out of physician representative as part of the statement requires. So, yeah, I've enjoyed our work here and continue to hope we grow. I think we're heading in a positive direction with it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Kevin?
Kevin Sombart, I've been a resident for a little over 30 years. And I am an at-large resident representative. And I thought that my skill set, I'm a former CFO, part-time at this point. I do consulting work with clients all over the country. But in business functions, and I thought with my skill set and my involvement in political endeavors in the past, and my father, that it would be a good fit for me. Also, I think that we have a lot to offer as a group to improve the communication between the police department and the public. And so I'm one of the original members as well. Technically, my term has expired, but I'm still here, so we'll move forward with that. But this is a great group, and welcome to the new members. We're finally at this point full, so which is the first time that we've been full for a while. But we've added a couple of members, one from Webster University and one and a couple of student representative that we've really had a difficult time keeping, on the board. And hopefully by the changes in the ordinance, we'll be able to keep a student involved, because I think that's really an important demographic to have a voice in this group.
Can I ask you one question? So do you want another term? You want to serve another term?
I will serve another time.
Just go out on the website, fill it out.
The application.
Application, Katie, get it to us, we'll renew it, city council. We'll be good to go.
Okay.
I'll let Katie know it's coming.
Huh?
I'll let Katie know that it's coming.
Okay.
All right, Lexi, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Lexi O'Brien, like Kevin, and an at-large resident of just a little over 30 years. I'm a marketing and communications professional. I've worked at WashU for also around 30 years, and just now I'm at a time in my life that I was able to serve and developed an interest in this particular board through my involvement at the Alliance.
Thanks, Lexi. I'm Katie Miller. I am I think a 19-year resident of Webster Groves now. So, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and my background is in home hospice and trauma, or grief trauma. And so that social work component is what drew me to be a part of this board, and then also just a personal interest in social justice issues. And this is my second, so I did my 3-year term, and this is the start of my second term. I am the acting chair, and I am actively looking for a new chair, which I will say all the time. So be thinking about that if you are interested in some leadership. Paul probably is, I'm thinking. So, so anyway, that's our group so far, but we'll have new introductions in August. And hopefully I would love to see everybody here at the same time.
Is your term expired yet? Or-
I'm renewed for this a second 3 years. Yeah. Oh, and I have a son who's at the Naval Academy, woo, and a daughter who's at Webster
Brand new.
High School. Yeah, he's brand new at the Naval Academy, and then my daughter's at Webster. Yes, and he just made the offshore sailing team. Isn't that fun? I know.
That's awesome.
So anyway, so that's me. So I guess let's get down to business. And the chief first is our first order of business, which I initially, so this is pretty much a reboot of the agenda from last month, because we didn't really have a meeting last month. So we may have, we'll see where this goes, but.
Well, I think Captain Perch gave everybody an update, even though it wasn't a formal meeting. I think he gave a pretty thorough presentation
did.
of the active shooter. So
Okay,
Actually, the active killer.
yes.
Yeah.
So in any case, as Chairman said, if there's any organizations or anyone in the city who would like a presentation, that we certainly are able to give that. The other thing I wanted to do was just briefly, Lexi had a question on this, on the disparity report. So I wanted to touch on that. Let's see if I can share the screen. For the older members, I think we've gone over it before, so you've heard most of this detail before, but I'll add a little bit to it. The new disparity rate came out in June, and it did increase slightly, but we look at the 20-year analysis of the data. It really is more an indication of the minority population than it is of any type of racial profiling. And that's the issue with the report itself. The formula is based upon the driving population of the municipality where the report is made. So consequently, if you look at the totals from 2000 to 2021, you'll see that when the population was 6 and 7%, the disparity rate was anywhere from 1.7 to 2.3, somewhere in that neighborhood. In 2019, the state went from the 2010 decennial census and used the American Community Survey, and the population decreased from 5.3% to 3.82%. And then again, this year it went down again to 3.1%. So it was a 17% decrease in population, and that corresponded to a 17% increase in the disparity rate.
Can you define, I'm not sure what you're measuring, what is disparity rates measure?
That's the number times more likely that you are to be stopped by the police. So the disparity rate here, if you're a black driver in 21, it's saying that you were 6.57% times more likely than another driver, not just white drivers, to be stopped.
And not just residents of Webster Groves.
No,
It's
this includes all residents, and that's one of the issues with the formula. Again, I don't discount it, we don't discount it, we take a look at it, but you have to keep in mind, one of the things that really should be happening is we should be including something along a 10-mile radius, and probably a little bit more than that, but at least 10-mile radius of the city would be a much more accurate tell if you did the percentages. If you did that, the black driving population would be 6.97%. And that itself would reduce the index by over 50%.
So why are non-residents being, black residents being stopped so much?
Well, because we have primary roads, we have the Bay Station Road, we have Brentwood Boulevard, we have Elm Avenue, and we also have the interstate highway.
And Big Bend.
And Big Bend. Of all the stops in 2021, only 11% were residents. So almost 90% of the stops that we make are people who live outside of Webster Groves.
That's down from 12%. It was 12.
Yeah, last year was 12%. I mean, so you'll see that basically when the population was pretty much steady, the rates were fairly steady as well. As soon as the population rate went down, that's when the disparity rate increased dramatically. And you can see this year it went down again. So the disparity rate here and here is an indication of that.
It's just a big argument. Would it possibly indicate that you're focusing on black non-residents somehow?
I don't know how officers could tell it's not
I
black
don't know, can you
non-residents,
tell by the license tag or something?
No.
Okay,
which is another reason why I added this. I sent the information, but I also wanted to add this information as well. The big concern, and one of the targets, the concerns of racial profiling, is that it's based upon a contextual stop, and that is that officers have a legitimate traffic violation, but they're stopping. They don't stop a white driver because of that violation, but they'll stop a black driver.
Mhm.
And the reason is a pretext to either check to see if they wanted or check the car to see if there's no issue or there's anything stolen with it, and it's based upon race.
Mhm.
And that's something that we train against, which we'll also have that information shortly. So the officers have a wide discretion as to who they stop and why. So one I said, the thing is we really want to take a look at is Or making stops based upon the pretext to make that stop based upon race. So one of the things that we look at is, right, the violations. We know our speeding violations, the vast majority, probably almost 99%, if not more, are radar violations. The radar gun can't see the driver, can't see the race of the driver, can't see the sex of the driver, doesn't know who the driver is. So we're taking a look at our speeding violations, and about a little over 70% of the speeding violations are white drivers. About 2%, a little over 2% are black drivers. So this is an indication kind of the population that we're dealing with and the stops we make. So you would expect that this would be somewhat similar on non-speeding violations
Is
where,
it 70% and 20%
yeah, about 70% and about.
and about 20?
About 20%.
Okay.
And it's the other races which are almost negligible. There's very few. I can blow this up a little bit. Sorry, my eyes aren't too good, but you can see the percentages here.
Right, okay, yeah.
So you would expect the correlation between this and this. This one where you can almost be certain that the officer can't tell the sex or race of the driver. So they're stopping about a little over 70% white drivers, a little over 2-something%. So again, is anything that we can prove it that there's no definitive studies that say, oh, okay, there's a correlation, but common sense would tell you, it's again, one of the things you look at is that that would be the kind of population, the number of stops with somewhat, the other ones should look somewhat similar to that. And these, and some of you can't tell. In fact, a lot of you can tell before you make the stop through the race of the driver is. They're almost identical, as you can see. They're stopping a little over 70% on non-speeding violations and a little under 2% on for black drivers. Also, one of the more important things that we look at is the number of complaints we get as far as whether it's profiling or citizen complaints on officer behavior or whatever it might be. And that's a factor that we look at as well. In 2021, we had 0 complaints on traffic stops or anything else. So far in 2022, we have 0 complaints on traffic stops or any other officers. There is an argument to be made that some of the underserved population or some of the minority population doesn't report everything because they have a fear of that with the police and whatever. That's one of the things I think the board helps with. But I don't discount that to some degree, but the fact that there's none, I think is a pretty good indication that we're doing a pretty good job of treating people fairly when we stop and we're not making stops based upon pretext. Then finally, one thing I want to point out, we do train for it every year. 2021, we had 130 hours of training on either anti-bias training, racial profiling training, and different aspects of that, implicit bias training. So I didn't go back. I didn't look this year, but I can certainly do that. But this is a typical indication of a typical year, 2021, where we have over 130 hours of training where we're training against this type of behavior.
Each officer get 130 hours.
No, there's no way.
So 130 hours are offered. That people.
That people take, the minimum that somebody has to take is 2 hours.
Okay.
So a lot of officers got more. Nobody got less than 2 hours of training this year. Or anything.
How many officers do you have?
Right now we're 42.
Chief Curtis, could I ask you a question?
Sure, Lexi.
I noticed in the breakdown where it talks about the premise for the stop or the cause of the stop, and it of course has speeding, moving violations, and then it has mechanical, and it still had a line item for I think it said license, and I'm thinking that maybe 2021, is that still reflecting data when you had those automated license plate readers? And is that why, would we expect that number to be a lower number of stops in the future? Because it was still a fairly high number.
Yeah, no, the answer to that is no. We didn't have any license plate readers in operation in 2021. We took them out of service.
I don't know if you have a screenshot of that in your
Those expired
presentation
licenses.
here. Yeah, I
we
just
took-
thought that was interesting. And if I guess my observation is, I think I think you're right, that disparity index is, well, isn't it nice to just have a little number to put it out there and say that captures it? But I think it's certainly a much more complex situation as you've observed. And I was curious, based on, what is the premise for a stop? And then in a separate line, it says, what's the outcome? Like, does the person leave with a warning or a citation? To me, if we were really wanting to understand if there was the potential for racial bias going on, you'd want to look in those numbers once you've pulled someone over.
Right, we
And,
did look at those numbers, and I don't have that now, and we can rerun them for this year, but not this past year, but the year before we ran them. It was almost, it's not identical, but they were very similar in terms of the number of warnings and a number of citations issued to white drivers and minority drivers. I think, matter of fact, Kevin noted that at that one meeting when we did take a look at. I'm sorry I don't have those available. I can take a look at it. It was very comparative in both cases.
Yeah.
We took the license plate readers out in 2018, which we no longer had them. And that did seem to affect a little bit, but it's kind of like an Xbox theory. As you noted this year, that didn't really seem to affect that all that much, but we did take them out for that reason. Again, and that has more to do with an economic status, but people who are on lower incomes have a difficult time keeping license plates current, keeping mechanical items up to date, and having things like a blinker out or a headlight out, those kind of issues. So that would increase it some, but again, when we take a look at the speeding violations compared to the other violations over here, like I said, 99% of the time the officers can't tell if what the sex or race of the driver is. And in this category, it's pretty close. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit lower for minority drivers, but it's pretty close to that. So you would, well, intuitively, you would believe that these two numbers should be about the same if you're not profiling. And that seems to be, it's more based upon the driving population. It's like a lot of other things. I can't explain why there would be more of one race or one culture doing something or not doing something. There's things there that are just too complex to really be able to come to terms with. If they were there, everybody would have them and we'd be doing studies, but it's really a difficult thing to determine what all those variables are. So based upon what we're seeing and the things that we can't take a look at, I mean, I can't tell you that it never happens, but I can tell you we train against it. All the statistics that we have, everything that I see here tells me that as a culture, in general, our police department is not profiling. We're not exhibiting bias on the stops. Our stops have gone down quite a bit. We only stop 11% of residents. So the formula that's used for that really is not a good tell on how the officers' behavior is.
So I agree that these are very positive numbers. Violations those are stops or those are arrests?
These are speeding ones,
These
and these are like 99% or more of these are radar tickets. I mean,
So they're tickets, they're not just stops.
yeah, they're just tickets. These are stops where there's stops, there's violations and warnings, and the percentages are almost identical to the.
So that one has warnings too.
Yes.
The other one does.
Yeah.
Can you?
Well, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. Some of the speeding violations are warnings as well. The stops are, we did pull this data from the court. This is pulled from the racial profiling vehicle stop report. So I don't know, maybe I'm discussing 20 or 30% of these are warnings, and probably 20 to 30% of these
Do
warnings.
you have guidelines about how to make a decision, use discretion about warnings versus?
It's officer's discretion, and I can do this as well. I did a little compilation of officer stops. It's probably about 20 minutes that we did it. The older members have seen it. I'll be glad to show it again. Basically, I didn't pull anything. We pulled what came up, and we're able to see. We have body cameras and vehicle cameras. You can see how the officers behave, how they acted on the stops. And again, 21 we had no complaints, and 22 we haven't had any complaints. but I'll be glad to do it again if you want. I can pull,
No, I know.
A dozen or
I just
15
was
So I think
curious.
it'd be great for the new members to see that. And also the additional data on what happens after the stop. In other words, is in comparison to the white and black driver, does one group get a ticket more than another? So to me, this report is,
We don't get stopped very often, but my wife never gets a ticket. I always.
Got a session on that?
well, the one thing I can assert without any hesitation, and that is we don't operate on traffic stops for revenue.
Yeah.
We're at the point where it's less than 3% of the city's revenue is from fines. So the officers have the discretion on speeding ticket, on speeding stops, if it's 10 miles a mile per moreover. And we win grants from the state pays us overtime to put an officer on the highway when they have different days where they will have blanket coverage, not just here, but every place else. We get grants for overtime. Last year was about $20,000, where we pay an officer to come in, go up on the highway and work in the state. In general, those, they probably almost always will write a ticket, but otherwise, it's officer discretion. Officers don't have decided about writing somebody a ticket. Like I said, you can see when they stop people, a lot of times they cut them a break. So unless there's a serious violation or a good reason to, normally an officer will issue one.
there's a couple of drivers on 44 yesterday that I wish somebody would have been out there writing a ticket. It passed me going 90 miles an hour, 2 cars.
Are there any comparable cities to us in the state that you check in on the data to see if your
Well, we can,
hypothesis could be tested on that? That's it's 97%, 3% on the
it's hard to do because
population, and then a pass-through highway, which skews the data. Can you see that skewing of the data with Highway 70 close to Kansas City and other places?
we can, and I have checked other cities in the St. Louis area as well. It's just, it's not, in my opinion, a valid comparison to make. I don't want to say, well, look, we're only this and they are up here. You can see that, because same thing. So it's the drive based upon the drive population that's going through the cities. Over in Shrewsbury, for instance, theirs is probably almost twice ours, but they've got part of 44 as well. But they also have a much lower minority population. I'm just fighting where I came from. The disparity rate there is artificially low, and the reason because they're able to count the criminal justice center population as part of their population. So they're adding 400 or 500 minorities to their population who never step out of a cell or drive a car. So it's a tough.
And that supports your hypothesis.
Well, to me, this report just checks a box by the AG's office.
Right.
That's it.
Well, the intention was good. Like I said, I don't discount it. I mean, we're never going to discount it. We want to keep our eye on the other indicators there. I don't like having the disparity rate as high as we have it, especially now. But if the black driving population continues to decline, it's going to be very difficult for us to below that. And that's the major cause of why it's the size it is for the last 3 years.
Is it not more important what happens after the stop than what happens if a stop occurs?
Well, I think it is, but it's important why the stop occurs. If the stop is occurring because of the race, that's a
Right,
problem.
I get that. But if a stop, so it is, a white driver treated differently than a black driver, isn't that the really,
That's as important, but it's also
Right.
equally important as to why the stop's going to be.
okay,
Again, that's one of the things we train for. All the officers are aware of it. It's something that we talk about frequently. Again, I can't tell you that it never happens because I'm not on the street. I can't ride with every officer all the time. I can only say that we do monitor it. We look at all the stats that we can.
I did.
Based on all that information, I'm very comfortable that it's not in our culture. It's not something that the officers do. Maybe an officer out there, and we try to keep an eye on the individual stats as well. The problem with that is, 2 or 3 officers predominantly will ride in North Webster, so that's going to skew to show that there's more stops for them than they are for people who don't. Some of the officers write the details up on the highway, the traffic division writes up there, so their statistics are gonna be skewed as well, so it's hard to definitively say what's happening because of the fluidity of it, but based upon the totality of the statistics and what we're doing and what we train for, like I said, I have a pretty high level of confidence that our officers are not profiling.
This is an experience I had that was kind of eye-opening for me. This was in Florissant. And I was riding with a woman, a black woman that I worked with. And she made an illegal turn left and third, right in front of the police officer. And went into this parking lot. And the police officer followed her into the parking lot. And he did a little bit on his siren, followed her into the parking lot. Well, she was nervous. She stopped. And then she was just nervous. She started up again. And the police, the car went around and blocked her in the front. And the police officer was very polite, you know, and he didn't give her a ticket. And she was absolutely sure that he went around her in front like that. And he got her license, you know, asked for a license. She was absolutely sure that he did that because she was black. And I said, well, I thought he did give her a ticket because she was a woman. But what it showed me, and he did absolutely nothing wrong, but she was sure she was being stopped because she was black. She didn't file a complaint. But I wonder, is there any way, I don't know how you do it, but is there any way you can try to counteract that?
That's just something that
I don't know.
that we work at. I mean,
I
and that is
know it wasn't a bias.
right. What you're talking about is understandable. I mean, there is
Mhm.
a long history of issues there. So many drivers,
Yeah.
especially black drivers, are basing that upon past history. So it's just something
Yeah.
that we have to work on and create a different future for those kind of things. And again,
But
make sure
that's-
that people understand. We can't change a lot of
Well,
perceptions
that's what I'm
based
wondering.
upon
Is
that.
that something, I'm not saying you have to do, I'm wondering, is there something we can do to help with that somehow? I mean, it's that, to me, that's what bias is, you know, is you get into a vague situation and the other person, you know, has a bias, really. And is it that it just is, it showed me what bias, you know, it wasn't the police officer, I don't think, you know. But I had a bias that he didn't give her. I mean, she started off, you know, I thought he'd give her.
So I just want to point out, I don't know how Lexi feels, but I feel uncomfortable in a sense because aside from Emerson, like we're all white people discussing how we are guessing black people feel.
Well, she
about-
told it. She
Right.
said it.
I know, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying,
And
is-
it-
so we,
it made
but
it- we got into an argument about
I
it.
think it would be a more productive discussion if we had more people of color at
Yeah.
this table so that we weren't trying to guess about that. Lexi, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think that
Oh, Lexi, you cut out.
She's breaking up.
She muted herself.
Lexi, you're muted by accident, I
I
think.
don't think so.
No, Aaron's muted.
Oh, Aaron.
She's in a car, so she's
Gosh darn it.
in and out of signal.
So so I don't know, as Lexi.
When she comes back, maybe she can make her point.
Yeah, I guess that I just wonder, I think those big philosophical parts are good for us to discuss, but probably beyond our.
Well, I'm just saying,
Hi,
there's stuff.
Katie, can you hear me now?
Now
Yeah,
we can
we're
hear you.
good.
Sorry, I don't know.
There's stuff happening beyond.
No. It
Sure.
it was an interesting question because I had just gone through the survey feedback. from the survey that was conducted at this
That
point.
we
like,
did.
Yeah.
yeah, and there were comments there around some of these issues, and there were just some interesting, statistics about some of the issues we're talking about. I actually thought that I would take the exported info and just kind of come up with a few slides, if that's something that would be okay to share next meeting, because I think it maybe pertains to this, but I absolutely think it's a little skewed to have a board of predominantly white members, at least at this meeting, particular meeting, for us to speculate on how things feel and how they're perceived.
So I think that's a good idea about the survey, and I know that's something that I had some thoughts, and I do. So maybe when we get to that next, our updates and discussion, we can talk more about that on the next part of the agenda. Lexi, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So did you have more that you want to say, Chief?
Unless somebody has questions.
All right. Okay, so then if we move on to the next part of our agenda, it's updates and discussion from just different news that we have and different activities. And I don't know, did we talk last time about the old community and
No.
Wesley Bell event?
We did not talk about this.
Okay, so were you there?
I was present
I would love to hear about it.
and
Does everybody know about this event?
Emerson was present. And Centron was there.
I was there too.
Oh, you were there? I didn't see you, Lexi.
I was in the back left corner if you're facing the pulpit.
Okay. Okay. Well, why don't you talk about what you thought about it? I thought Wesley had some great ideas on what he's doing, and the data that he's collecting is actually pretty strong. And I thought he had some wonderful ideas.
Yeah, I was also, he talked quite a bit about community policing and sort of the role of his office, and sort of collaborating with all these different municipalities, each of which have their own, perspectives on how they conduct policing.
Mhm.
But community policing was a topic that I definitely want to read more about. I think that had a lot to do with, I think, some of the processes he's putting into place. And so maybe that could be a topic we discuss sometime as a board. But I thought it was a really excellent presentation.
It was.
And we were one of the PCB was one of the co-sponsors of that event. So one of the things that we keep trying to do is increase sort of the recognition or understanding in the Webster Groves community about who is the PCEB, what do we do, what are we here for, and that and co-sponsoring that event and being part of, bringing that speaker. We didn't do much, but we did co-sponsor it. So that was
Right.
good. Yeah.
Minus the political portion of it, which, I mean, he's a politician, so
Right.
it was a little bit too much of a political event, in my opinion. And he spent a lot of time on that, and I'm of the opposite party, so I felt a little out of place. But the other thing that struck me a little bit, and maybe Emerson can speak to this, is I was a little surprised at the lack of Black attendees that were at the event, considering it was at the Old Community Baptist Church, which has predominantly Black members. Okay, and I knew a lot of the members that were there because I've known them, in the past.
Right.
But it was. Am I wrong, Emerson? It was predominantly white people that were at the event.
Yeah, you are correct. It was predominantly white, and the African American, Black population saw kind of belong to that church.
Right.
Yeah, so, but, even going back to, Paul's question, is that how do you get that information to the Black population?
Right.
You can't just think they're gonna pick up a paper and read it, that they're gonna look at an email when they don't have a computer. They're not gonna get an email because they might not have internet, so it's almost a thing you need to do an effort, we can announce, we did announce it within our membership of the
Mhm.
Northwest Indian Coalition, but it's finding a mechanism to communicate with that segment of our
Right.
community is what needs to be solved.
And also, I guess I wonder about communication, but also energizing people to want to participate, whether it's Black people or white people or anybody. If you get the information that this is something happening in your community, what makes you energized to want to participate, or what makes you say, that's not worth my time? And, that's a part of this too.
But yeah, you're exactly right, Emma. We're so focused on trying to get information out through either the internet or through some other kind of communication, but you're not reaching some of the folks that are affected the most.
And, I'm on the board of the West Rock Hill Ministries, and we volunteer for August to 4 or 5 days out of the week. We have a email platform, but those are our clients. And we have a certain responsibility to keep their information private.
Private, right?
Yeah, so, but sending them things out that's important for them in the community, that's okay. I think so. That can be an outlet to let our clients know what's going on in the community. So, so just keep that in mind when you want to announce something. And probably said once before, the more they see you, the more they'll respond to you.
It's really relationships. All right. Well, thanks for those who were able to go and participate, and I'm glad that we were able to do that. Okay, so another item that came up was about keeping the PCEB information on the Webster Groves website, the city website, updated. And so I think we're just looking for somebody who's willing to provide Jenny Starkey with updates on a regular basis. So I don't know, does anybody have a?
I guess my question is, what updates are you pointing to? What are we updating?
Right, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Actually, this question.
So I think
came
that's the
from-
first
yeah.
question.
So what do we want? to
What do
make
we
sure-
want to update on the web? What do we want to include on the website?
Well, I would say, this is already happening in other places, but like the dates of our meetings and times.
They're there.
Right, the minutes from prior meetings.
They're
right?
there.
Yes. And then any events that we are planning or hosting or participating in.
That is not being done effectively.
What if we put on there something like, we're trying to figure out how to get more represented on the board. We don't have an answer, we're saying.
Are
we'd
you
like
interested?
suggestions as to how to do that, or is someone interested? I don't know either. Maybe somebody have an idea.
I don't know.
Again, they have to have internet access to be able to access it. So, but
So we could say, have you sell them through the Webster Rock Hill Ministry. This is something we're trying to see. More
Participation, There's one thing about saying that Webster's this and this, but if you are not ready to work to correct it, to me, it's just empty words.
Mm-hmm. then the other thing is our meetings are open meetings, and before people might want to agree to participate, they might want to also just come and observe, our monthly meetings. That, I mean, that's always, that information is there, but it's not the same as saying, hey, you're welcome here, or we want you to attend. It's
But and consider, City of Webster, can we put a page every month in the Webster, so can the PCB have a box on that page to kind of indicate what you're doing as a commissioner of the city?
We are supposed to very soon have an article, like sort of here's who the PCEB is, here's what they do in an article format in the Webster Kirkwood Times. But I agree that's a good.
That's something that's on a monthly basis.
Mhm.
And going back to your website, they need to know who you are. Not a name, but maybe your picture or something to see who you are.
Maybe we need to get out of here.
I
Maybe
wonder.
we need to meet the different locations, like a Webster, Rockville, Ministry, or.
I actually don't
a
think we're
business.
allowed to do that,
No.
maybe for sunshine laws.
Sunshine.
actually, we have to do
Right.
that.
That's-
But I wonder, okay, so one of the things that we're gonna talk about is probably doing a work session in September and then doing some kind of smaller subcommittees for different things. And actually, I was thinking, because this media component is something that, to me, maybe like our high school student, or, people that people who are a little bit more media savvy, or like, how could we use the website or other media? That might be something that a younger person and a couple of our other folks might be doing.
Jenny Starkey can help you there. There's something to be in relationship with that. She is, may not be an absolute priority, but she certainly has time to do that. I'm sure will.
I just think it's it's like, okay, we can have this idea here, but the reason this is on is who's going to take responsibility on the board for moving it forward. And so it sounds like we have some ideas. Go ahead, Lexi.
Do it. I volunteer.
Okay, thanks, Lexi.
I was hoping you would, Lexi, because you're the talent in the communication field. And
Okay,
that was that was one of the reasons I was so excited that you became part of the board, quite honestly. Is because your skill set is so important to our work. We've struggled on this issue since day one.
right.
Am I right,
Including
Scott?
email-
Absolutely. best
and how to communicate with us, and what we can put on the website, what we can. So Lexi, that'll be awesome. Thank you.
And I will
That's
help you, Lexi. This is Kevin. I will help you.
I would
Great,
just
thank you.
add-
Kevin. I look
would add
forward
that I
to
think-
putting together some ideas that I
Yes.
can share with the group.
Yes,
And then we can all say, I agree, or I think we should do this instead, but I will come to the next meeting with that. And Kevin, I'll send you my list ahead of time. and
yeah,
you-
send me your list and
Collaborate.
we'll bounce ideas off of each other.
Okay, that sounds great.
I was just gonna add that I think it's about content. I'm not gonna come to your website to read old meeting minutes.
Right.
I'm not gonna come and look at the schedule. I'm gonna wanna, I just read through how many slides of data that you could highlight every one of those slides once a month. And you've got 3 years worth of content right there, 'cause you got 40 slides, right? I think there are ways to involve officers in that and some Instagram kind of things. If we're talking about websites and Facebook, that's for this room. And anybody above 40 years old. If it's younger people, it's Instagram and Snapchat, and I think Instagram is where there's some action to do that. But if we're gonna engage, then we have to have content that's gonna be worth viewing, but I'm not gonna go to the website and check meeting minutes for May. That's not interesting.
Right.
A clip, a couple of slides highlighting some results of that survey, that is interesting. And you've got, I forget how many slides are of that report. There's at least 25 slides that have something useful that kind of gives a glimpse into what people think or what they see.
Yes.
Jenny can whip up a slide like that and share
Or
her
the-
presence for what they're
Or
doing.
the summary.
I won't read that. That's good content. I won't read that.
That's where I'm at. I'm on Instagram and Snapchat.
I won't be.
But
That's not my route.
But someone like Sloan understands that.
Right.
Or someone like, I
Right.
worked with Jenny for a number of years at university, and so and she gets that. I think it's just a matter of building out content.
Jenny is there. I mean, she monitors all the stuff.
Yeah, the Twitter feed for Webster Groves is markedly different than since she started working. I mean, I saw today right away,
Right,
there
that's
was
true.
the waste management was not gonna get my trash this week. Or I mean, it was shut down. I mean, that was good for me to know. So it's that's the kind of real-time content, not archive data that somebody may want to go and pull and read, but like that's the orientation I think you're gonna have is what's the real-time content we can create that's relevant, like Jenny can do. And I'm certainly happy to help with that too.
So I think there's also, which I think is great, like generational difference, not in what you're thinking, but in the sense of like the things have been done in the city away for a long time with Mayor Welch, and like she had a way that she liked to do things, and I think social media was kind of uncomfortable, but now things are changing, and so maybe that's the way we can engage that we haven't been able to, but there's probably pros and cons to that, and we'll work through it as we need to. But, you know.
We have Jenny Stark come to the meeting.
I suggested that a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
That she come and do a presentation.
That would be great.
And then have a back and forth with her.
We can invite her, but that's something Dr. Creek is not her boss.
Okay.
But I would have something. What is that you're looking?
Maybe sort of like what can be done, like we're kind of, we're new to this, and so kind of like, what are the range of things that might be done, or?
What's her responsibility? I don't know what her responsibility is. I know what her title is, but I don't know what her responsibility is.
Well, what we want to try to cultivate is that word engagement. For the PCB. So I think you can ask Jenny, this is what we want to do. Do you have any, how can we do it? Via communications.
Yeah.
And she probably can come up with like the chief said, I would go through Eric or either Dr. Peoples and to get that done.
Okay. I like it. We can extend the invitation and be clear, but we don't want to waste your time, so.
And two, when you have Sloan on board, Sloan is that youth. What can she do?
I was thinking the same
to
thing.
to include that.
Yeah.
And then, and how can we engage with the school district to help make that engagement portion of the PCBB?
Well, we keep talking about meeting with everybody, we talk about having 5 p.m., 6 p.m. meetings and meet with these different groups. Maybe if instead we're focused on how, like you said, push out information to them, show them the different officers or profile, get them comfortable with that. And then that's where I would hope Ms. Starkey would help us, Jenny Starkey would help us know how to do that.
Yes.
Instead of always saying, where could we go at 7 p.m. at night? Sit in
I
a
agree
room
with that. And what,
and
how,
have a meeting,
right.
as opposed to, how do all these various groups engage with their participants to begin with? It's probably not just meetings. They're probably pushing out information to them all the time.
And I promise you, I won't speak this much in the future, but
No, it's
Please
good.
do.
in my,
Yeah, I was thinking it's good, thank them.
in my opinion, this is just my opinion, watching the PCB mature, it appeared there was always, how can the police have a better relationship with Black residents? It's the residents all over the city. How do we engage with all the residents? Because that's like the chief just said, that's a small percentage of what Webster Rose is now. I think was it 7%? 3%. It were maybe about 10 years ago, it was up to 15, 17. So, you have a very small pool now. So not that I don't want the Black residents to be recognized or considered, but we have a whole population of people in Webster that we need to engage with.
Good point.
Great. All right. Lexi?
Yeah, I think that I just had a thought that, the demographics, as far as age are also really important as well. And I had just looked at the survey and noticed that it was something like close to 80% of the respondents were older than 40.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's obviously you're going to have a skewed view. And of course, those are all the people that, you know, they say they look at the Webster Kirkwood Times, but I'll bet if we, you know, had a bigger pool of 30 somethings and young families, if you haven't been here as long, they probably aren't. So I think that we need to cast our net widely to think about, you know, how we're engaging.
I agree. Thanks, Lexi. All right, I guess we have some action items with that. So, so thanks Lexi and Kevin for volunteering. We'll extend an invitation to Jenny Starkey. Do we do that through Dr. Peoples or can we?
If you do want to read it to the next meeting,
Sure.
yeah, when I talk to Dr. Peoples, I'll do that. Are we looking at, she's gonna want to know exactly what it is that she's looking for. Are we looking at her just kind of presenting what's there, the platforms that we can use, or what are we looking for?
What communication tools would she suggest?
Or strategies
Or
of using
or-
those
or,
tools.
right, of reaching a greater percentage of the population of Webster Groves.
I think what Emerson said, the engagement, we are unsure how to use those platforms to engage the residents about.
It's hard
what
to
we
engage
do.
residents because, I mean, unless it's personally affecting them, they want their trash picked up and they want their water to work and they want, you know, if there's an issue, they want the fire department or the police department to show up. If that's happening, they don't pay any attention to anything else.
I'll just give you an example. When we were modeling Ivy Crockett Park, you know, the walking trail, basketball courts, basketball hoops, and things of that nature. Jenny used QR codes to let the residents in that general area know what was going on. And she also used, I think, I don't know if she was students or not, but they went and did dropped it in mailboxes, not in mailboxes, but I mean, they went to the home and informed. And I can't remember if they did a small mailing, only to a small demographic. Those are the kind of things that she uses to get to the.
Right, I'll invite her.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say, I'll talk to Dr. Peoples.
Something like a QR code, the kids know what that
They
is.
sure do,
They'll
yeah.
just blast it and
Mhm.
everybody will come up.
All right. Okay. Follow up, if any, with, this was from a long time ago now, from the May, so when you all met with the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition, is there any follow-up we need from that?
No, I think we should be again. And
You did the
Schedule something
survey,
at some
right?
point.
So maybe
yeah, but
sharing the
we never
survey
heard.
results?
Yeah, Lexi, you didn't receive any surveys back.
No, and I also had provided my PCEB email and I
Right.
followed up with Rosalind Croft.
Right.
And
And
there
no
hasn't
response.
been
Okay.
no response. However, I will be going to their meeting next week. And so I'll be there.
Probably
and
not, Lexi.
Talk it up. Is it the following week? I don't have a calendar. in front
It's
of me,
normally
but
the
I'll be
first
there.
it's normally the first Thursday of the month, but I don't think we're gonna meet.
Oh,
It probably won't
okay.
be,
I know
not until
Rosalind-
September.
September.
Oh,
Summer-
okay.
summer
I knew
people
July
usually-
was canceled.
Yep.
Okay.
Vacations and everything.
Okay. All right, so maybe we'll revisit that maybe in September, but not to let it fall off our sort of to-dos. Okay, now we have several ideas about subcommittees. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking through this on the spot. Lexi, you had some ideas, actually Lexi and Kevin both did. So why don't you explain your ideas and then we can decide if we want to move forward now or make this a work session something, anyway. Lexi, you wanna start?
I think, yeah, I think Kevin and I are on the same page here. My idea started out, having looked at the list of obligations we have as a board for things that we've signed up to do as far as reports and listening sessions and just feeling that we needed to have a plan so we could meet all those obligations over this coming year. And so I had used the word calendar as just a way of, you can only do so much at a time. So we should schedule like when is a really good time to have listening sessions and so forth. So it's a sort of that's the big picture. And then there are little pieces of like, how do you accomplish that? And so I had brought up the idea of having some kind of calendar if we wanted to continue to meet with community groups like we did with. We want to, start to look at when those groups meet and ways that we could engage with them. And do we want to get that on our sort of personal calendar for PCEB about things we might want to commit to doing?
So it's
And
something
then
that
Kevin-
visually, that's more like at a glance and this is sort of part of our calendar year routine. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, as a tool so that we don't lose track of things we have to do, but there's obviously deeper work that has to be done, to actually figure out, well, when are we going to publish our report for activities and who's going to work on it and what format does it take? So I think that's another, a separate work group.
Yeah, that rolls into really the next one, to discuss board responsibilities. They kind of go hand in hand, I think. But what Lexi was talking about, I think, is having a calendar of events for this group so that we knew what was due or coming, or, but how do we do that? And maybe that's a Jenny Starkey question. Is that something that we can have access through? I mean, that's all I need is another calendar, but and everyone else too. But is there some way that we can have some kind of communication other than an email that we can pull up visually to say, okay, this is what is due in September or in October, because there's several duties listed in the ordinance. So has everybody printed the ordinance and read it?
I read it.
Yes. I mean, there's the annual plan. We're responsible for the development and maintenance of an annual plan of action for our work. Well, how's that going to get done? That's kind of what Lexi's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The duties, A through L, on the duties. So how's that going to get done? And it's very difficult to do that kind of work in this type of meeting.
Yes, yes.
This board is so different than any other board within the city.
I would say that.
Huh?
I don't know if I would say that. Well, in one of my closing remarks, I was going to mention to you guys that the board, the council, we have a subcommittee now, and I'm on that subcommittee, to change the format and the direction of how we select members to different boards and commissions. We should know that your term is coming up at the end of X date. 90 days before that date comes up, we can probably, do you want to continue? So it's not, your term is ended. Now you're out of term and it takes 60 days to find somebody. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. But and to reorganize the commissions and boards so they kind of run on the same plane. There's some boards they call commissions, some call boards, some call something else. Well, We just need to pick a name and stick with it. So that's going to come soon, because we just met yesterday on how we do that. So I think the direction that you mentioned, here's the ordinance you look at, let's fulfill these obligations of ordinance that we'll be doing good.
Right.
I'm a liaison for Old Webster group. Things Old Webster, I can't remember. But you know, each commission is unique, but you know, it's good to have them all going down the same path with how they operate.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think they are now.
So kind of, so what, so
And
that
that's
I,
what I'm saying. We're different than all the others and all the because we're not operating under the same.
we're evolving though, and
Right.
we're new, we are newer, and so we,
Right.
but you're saying we need some uniformity of our procedures, and so that if all
That's
of
what
us,
Emerson said.
right, if all of us fell off the face of the earth, somebody could look at this and say, okay, we know where to start. And I think that's a good idea, but I do think a work session is something that we need to do and just kind of hash out the nitty gritty. And, you know, we could break down into,
I think there needs to be, Lexi, do you agree? I think there needs to be work done in advance of the work session.
I absolutely do. I also, just a little tidbit of info regarding the mechanics of having a calendar. I have talked to Jen Starkey. She and I are going to get together like in the next week or two. And so I could fold into, I can capture some notes about that. And if she does get approved to come speak to our group, you know, if she has questions for us, I can relay them back to you, Kevin. But I think that we can get some of the structure and mechanics of how to do this prepared for a next meeting in order to get a work group.
so it seems like to me, I have like this structural and mechanical piece is the kind of calendar, and also where they're like the Venn diagram of like board responsibilities and sort of like our annual, you know,
It's a task list essentially.
right, annual task list and how that's going to be divvied up. So those are kind of the structures and mechanics. And then I think there are two other things that have come up. One, Lexi, you were talking about the survey and sort of an analysis of what we have so far, and maybe some kind of evolution of that survey. Am I stating what you're hoping for?
Yeah, and you know, the picture I see on my phone is so small, I couldn't see who was speaking, but talking about having relevant content on a website, information that people want.
That was John.
That was John. So
Yeah.
I think that that's exactly, you know, if there are findings that we have, or if we realize, hey, we really missed a swath of the community and we'd like to go back and maybe find a way to reach out to them and get insights. So yeah, I think that survey is a starting point, even though it didn't live up to Kevin's expectations. I know you hoped for more responses. I think we've still got good information there.
Okay, so that's sort of like another part of this that probably wouldn't happen in a monthly meeting. This is like a work session type of thing. And then the final piece that I have a note on is a nominating committee to create I don't know, to figure out who's going to be nominated for the next chair position and make that happen, so that, because that will need to happen in November of 2022, so that that person can take over in January.
So when I stepped down as board chair, we put together a nominating committee to come up with names that we then presented to the board for discussion at a regular meeting, and then we voted on that. Okay. And I think that process seemed to work well. Okay. So I think we need to determine either at this meeting or at the earliest, the next meeting in August, the members of that nominating committee to report back to the group at large in November to select a new chairperson, because we historically will not meet in December. So for that to happen, we need to have names and talk to the individuals to see if they're interested.
So I think that seems maybe one of the simpler tasks that we
Mhm.
have, and I think I can put out an email in the next couple of weeks to our whole board and ask for volunteers for the nominating committee. And then based on who volunteers, they can meet. Right? Can they meet sunshine law wise?
Mhm.
They can
You,
meet,
you can, we can, no more than 4 people.
okay, no more than.
No more than
people
4,
for-
because 5 is a quorum.
Okay,
And as long as less than 5 meet, we do not have to have minutes or post an agenda or do any of that. So,
so I think that can be done by probably just email
Right.
and,
typically for the new members' benefit, anytime you communicate to all the board members, always CC Katie
not
Nakazona,
me.
not this Katie. Okay, always CC, and she is usually on every single email that you'll receive, because she keeps the official record of all email communications. Because, and that's why I have my own separate PCEB email, okay? And if we have one through the city, then I'll get rid of that Gmail account altogether. It's, if anyone wants, it's open record. So if anybody wants any of those communications, I would have to present all that. If I know that Katie has the official record, I can delete a lot of emails. Okay,
All right.
Just one quick point I want to make about what we've been talking about, was ensuring things in calendars. I mean, whenever the transition happens with Office 365, that's all you're going to need. I mean, there's going to be different applications in there. It'll be a lot more secure. You can protect documents, and that's probably even calendar stuff that certain folks have access to calendaring stuff. That's probably, if you're going to ask Jenny what the options are, I wouldn't be surprised if she said Office 365 is going to be the solution. And that just means getting them. And there's so many out there that you don't need to use, but there are a lot of ways to archive documents over years that you can restrict access to, and have calendar access that we can use and update only us. And folks rotate off, their access goes away. But there's a lot of flexibility.
right. But individually, each board member should not have that responsibility. To me, it should be a city responsibility. So to keep that data.
Sure.
So,
But for the purposes of
But
us
for the-
getting organized and our calendaring and tracking what we're doing.
and I think that's a question that we need to ask Jenny, is how can that function to help us as a board in keeping everybody informed without sending a ton of emails out. We just pull up a calendar and you have a visual as to what's coming up, and then to potentially develop one for the website. This is the calendar of events for the next, so people can pull it up and say, this is what's going on. And as far as content, you would have to, and this drives me crazy, something like this, you won't read it. I'm sorry, but that's not very long. If you don't read that, then there's an issue there with.
I could
with
summarize
being
that
involved.
page on 2 slides in 8 points. And then it'd be readable. Then I could go and find the document if I want to read more. But I'm
Right.
saying the content is how it's packaged and how you deliver. it.
Right, I get it, but I'm not good at that. So,
I'll-
Well, if I remember correctly from that survey, it looks like people were getting their information from the website perfectly timed. We don't about that. So getting an article in that every week sounds really important.
Yes, but then we are also saying, but then we're only gonna reach people over 40. That's
Oh.
the-
No one-
that's
no one-
probably
no
even,
one-
that's
no
even
one
really
35.
strict.
my kids never read, my daughter and son will never read it. But everybody over 40 reads it.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why the survey results, because as Lexi pointed out, most of the respondents were in that age group. But most young people won't even answer a survey. Drives me insane, but.
So it seems like if I had to summarize where I think we're sort of at is that because we have lots of new members, we have this new ordinance, there's going to be a lot of clerical aspects of what we're doing for the next few months. So I hope that that's not disappointing to people who may are like, we're gonna have some exciting events, because I don't think that's gonna be too much of what we do in the next few months. Do you all agree? A lot of it's gonna be, we're sort of revitalizing our clerical, what we need to do clerically to keep up with where our ordinances and where and what we need to be organized to make things happen.
Right, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that should be part of our, of an annual plan of action.
Right.
Part of the annual plan this year is going to be to how to better communicate with the general population of the city of Webster Groves
And engage.
and
Yeah.
engage with them in a format that they'll respond to. Right now, we're not, I
Yes.
mean, we're not getting any response.
It sounds like there's gonna be several different ways. Maybe the 40 and older, you do the winter, the younger Instagram.
And hopefully all of us have, I don't Instagram. I completely I got out of Facebook entirely. And I don't do social media anymore. The only one I do is LinkedIn. So,
That's because you're old.
well, no, it's because of,
If you're old, I am really old,
it's,
which I am.
So I
Let's
would
see.
just chime in to say that working in an internal marketing agency, yeah, absolutely. We've got planning to do, but we don't ever have the time to just say, oh, we're going to have 2 months down to plan and then we'll start executing. I really do think that there is new content that we could start to share. And we can be, as we begin talking about when will we have a listening session, and there's communication and ways that we can get out. And I think that hopefully by October, we should have something more substantial and have greater engagement than we do now.
I like it, Lexi. Thank you. Maybe I'm feeling pessimistic, so thank you for that. Okay, so it seems like, and again, I don't think I'm operating at my very best today, but it seems like what we are going to be doing for our August meeting is really utilizing Jenny Starkey and getting some solid information from her so that there can be sort of 2 parts of a work session. There's going to be like a mini work session, kind of end preparation, and then a let's get it done work session maybe in September. Does that sound right? Or do you think the mini work session should be before August, our August meeting? I'm looking for input from anybody.
I'm not available in August, so.
Okay,
No, it's the busiest month.
Okay.
Yes.
all right, so we'll wait. So our September will be a busier month for us with at least 1 work session in addition to our meeting. So we'll get some good input from Jenny Stark and go from there. Does that sound okay?
Do you want her next week or September?
Yes. August.
August.
Yeah.
If possible.
And Sloan should be here in August.
She thinks so.
Yeah. So we should be back.
She's in high school.
Well, one of the things you want to do, just like you said, using your ordinance as your structure, that you want to get those things. But then Jenny, she's one, this is how I can help you to achieve those items. So
Yeah.
Right,
I don't see her really taking up a whole meeting, but she tell you what tools are out there that you can use.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
hey Lexi, let's you and I get together. I do have some time to meet individually, maybe with you. And we can come together with a task list. And
That
then we can
sounds great,
present,
Kevin.
we can present that task list at the next meeting.
That sounds great. Kevin, just let me know what your vacation plans are.
I'm not going on vacation until October.
Oh,
Be-
okay. I couldn't hear. who
October and
said they were
November,
on
but I've got,
vacation.
yeah, I've got some client issues that I've got to deal with in August, so.
Okay, we'll work it out. I'll be in touch with you.
Yep,
Are there any additional updates or concerns that anybody has that we have not addressed?
Well, I just got a couple of updates I want to give you guys from the city council, nothing to do with the PCEB, but we talked about how we're gonna start looking to select board members to commissions and different boards. Also, the council will have strategic planning. We believe we can get to that by September, where we're going to create goals and objectives for the council and for the city. And then also, we're looking at the charter review advisory board. I'm not all cracked up about the acronyms, it's CRAB.
That's what you guys.
Yeah, I could not change the mind, but and that's another thing, is it commissioner or is it a board? So, but we're starting there. We do have maybe 16, 17 applicants, and we'll start that process so they can get started. We have to do interviews and then we'll get started in September.
Emerson crab might be better than crack though.
Yeah, you're right. So there's just some updates. I'll try to bring those when I attend the meeting. Those are the budget was the primary thing, and we got that behind us, and the strategic planning, charter review board, and the how we select members to commissions. It's on our plate now.
and I know one of our board members does not want to continue, so I noticed that there wasn't anything in the current Community Connect or the what is it, the Friday page, I think, and then there, the one that's in, there wasn't a list of looking for board members for the PCEB.
So you do know of a member?
As I understand, I don't want to speak for him because he is not in attendance tonight.
Okay.
But as far as I know, Pastor Hayes does not want to continue.
Well, my recommendation is, I think he represents the
He's the clergy.
clergy.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to continue, he needs to go ahead and let Katie know. I don't want to, we would rather start looking for the individual early instead of when he decides he's going to stop. I don't know when his term is up.
His term is already up, I
Yeah,
believe.
if he is no, and
Yeah.
if you don't want to participate, great.
And that's one of the issues is my term was up and nobody, I mean, if I didn't read it and say my term's up, nobody came to me and said, your term's up, or do you want to continue?
Mhm.
And there's no pro-action here.
It's,
And I think that's the point that you are trying to address in your work group.
mhm. But the director of the West Rock Hill Ministries, he's a minister. Now, he doesn't pastor the church, but he is a minister.
Right.
And so he's from Bahamas, but as I go out and I look for people, I don't wait for people to step up. I had to trick Paul and so, but if I say you don't want to do it anymore, just send Katie an email that, I'd like to resign, and then we will start that process of finding another person. I mean, the thing of it is, it picked him because he was clergy here in Webster Groves, one of the black churches in Webster Groves. That's nice, but he's not the only clergy in Webster Groves. Who is it? Oh no, I got a person. I haven't met him yet. New clergy at Linda. It was in the paper. They selected a black minister.
Yeah, he's,
Well,
I can't think of
Webster Hills
What-
United
Yes,
Methodist.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
perfect to get him involved in the community.
he's one to too.
Huh?
He's one to too. Yeah, he pastors up as the same person, our chancellor's church,
Okay.
and so they really wants to be involved.
Pastor, he don't want to do it. I have no problem. We're scheduled to meet. It's just that when our schedules and
Are you a member of that church, John?
Yeah.
But I think that'd be
I know members, I used to play on their softball team.
an excellent addition to the PCB.
Matter of fact, I might not be. Probably just be fine. That's. And that was one of the things that I commissioned the board, said, you know, we need to go ask them. See if they want to participate.
All right, well, thank you for those updates and I think that's it then for tonight's meeting. The next one, we are the fourth Tuesday of the month, so August has 5 Tuesdays, so we would be the 23rd. It looks like to me, August 23rd. 6:30 PM. Thank you for your time, everybody. And do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Kevin moves to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Lexi. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right,
Good night,
we
guys.
did it.
You
Good
supposed to rain
night.
overnight?
I hope not.